Malwa has peaced out with the Mughals, so this is just allowing Britain to take more territory. One thing that was pointed out is these guys are just mercenaries because they're sitting here taking 5% attrition every month. I believe that this war actually has some of the highest attrition of any war yet. Yeah, see, Britain's lost 83,000 to attrition just because there's mercenaries sitting there in the open. But Britain's so wealthy, he just doesn't care. He makes an absolutely horrendous amount of money. I mean, this is a real threat to other players. Britain being this wealthy means that they can really use that money as a weapon. So at the moment I would say that the two strongest nations are probably the Ottomans and Britain. Mughals probably in third. And then after that it gets more difficult. Ottomans, obviously. Britain, France, Ottomans, all roughly equal. What are the great powers at the moment? In first place, with 1,216 development, we have got the Ottomans. In second place, we have got France with 1,075. Third place, the Commonwealth with 824. Fourth place, Great Britain with 886. Mughals with 1,005. Russia with 756. Spain with 696. And then Ming with 1,234. Note that I am just reading off the development rather than the actual great power score, because that's modified by technology. Also, another interesting point here is Ming is really starting to fall behind in technology. Ming is usually able to keep parity simply by the strength of their economy and their ability to hire really high-level advisors and basically just strong-arm through the cost problems. The issue that Ming has had here is their mandate's super low. I mean, they're getting a couple of reforms going, but this is actually relatively late to get those reforms done. They've had problems with hordes on their borders. In fact, is Manchu still a horde? This is a really nice looking Manchu. I suspect that Cold Rage really, really wants to play as them. Cold Rage is a real thing for Manchu. They are a kingdom. So no, not a horde. Wait, Chagatai is a kingdom? Could have sworn they were a horde. Interesting. So there are no great hordes on the borders of Ming. Not even close to the borders of Ming. How on earth did Chagatai become a kingdom? Hictor. They must have reformed. I've never actually played as a horde, so I have no idea how the horde reform mechanics work. Not recently, anyway. What's Manchu's military looking like? 32,000. Not terrible. Civil war, however, looming. Oops. Too much overextension. Although it's only at 38% right now. Once they get Han Xiang done, they're not going to be having any problems. But that civil war is relatively close to kicking off. Mostly because of the low legitimacy. Player war. Ottomans fighting against probably Ethiopia. Yeah. The Ottomans have finally decided Ethiopia has survived for too long and has decided to bury the hatchet. And we've also got Kilwa involved. Is Kilwa allied with the Ottomans by any chance? Kilwa is indeed allied with the Ottomans, so I think that Kilwa and the Ottomans have said, you know what, we should totally divide this territory between us. Kilwa forces moving from the south. We've got Oman's troops coming across the strait. Oman, of course, being in this as well, but as an AI. And then Ottoman troops spreading out and taking stuff. And I'm not seeing any Ethiopian armies, but that's because I'm... yeah, there they are. So Ethiopia does have armies. Ethiopia, of course, and this goes without saying, really, have got rebels. And I don't think that they really stand much of a chance. 21,000 infantry against 238,000 infantry. 3,000 cavalry against 54,000. And then a mighty 3,000 artillery against 54,000. Yeah. So bearing in mind that Ethiopia's goal was to turn the Horn of Africa Coptic, Ottoman's goal was to turn the Horn of Africa Islamic. And I think Kilwa is also Islamic. Yes, they are. So Kilwa and the Ottomans are probably capable of living harmoniously together. Ethiopia, not so much. Ethiopia really needed to try and find some allies in Europe to counter the Ottoman threat, but considering how weak Ethiopia has been, particularly with the constant fighting against rebels, I think that they were a little bit more of a liability. I'm sure GB would like to be in just to steal land. Well, GB joined last time just to get Socotra, which they've got. I don't think that Britain has very many other interests in this area outside of Socotra. Unless Aden, like any of the trading powers, probably do want to get their hands on the Aden trade nodes. We know that Venice is down here, for example. We know that Britain's over here, for example. Netherlands would probably like to be. Spain, possibly. Aragon, possibly. Florence would like to be over here. That's true. I think that Florence was probably the most likely ally for Ethiopia if they could have pulled it off. Except, of course, that Florence and Ethiopia had a rivalry from prior to Ethiopia's move from Burgundy, because Burgundy reneged on a debt that they owed to Florence. I really like the Oman aesthetic, nice and clean, and the colours are good too. Yeah, I like Oman. I have a secret soft spot for Oman. They have some amazing ideas. If Paradox ever fixes this bloody trade steering issue, then Oman would probably be one of the most powerful, in fact, the most powerful trading nation outside of Europe. Actually, that begs a question. What ideas does Bengal actually get? Manpower, infantry, artillery, trade efficiency, army tradition, development cost, idea cost, land leader shock, national tax, and then goods produced. See, all of the information that I could find about Bengal said this is one of the most important trading areas. They had a special agreement, for example, with the Ming Emperor and the massive 10,000 strong Ming Armada stopped off in Bengal purposefully, and these two had like a really good trade agreement together. And Bengal was effectively like the Netherlands or the Venice of India. That's just not represented here. Represented in the goals that a potential Bengal player would need to be trying to achieve, but not really represented in the game. And didn't Ethiopia send a dodgy peace deal when Florence sent troops down there and ended up taking 1,000 ducats from Florence instead of surrendering? Yep. So Ethiopia really kind of did this to themselves. I have very little sympathy, I'm afraid. Aloha Snack Bar and Mad Green Pilgrim, thank you very much for the follows. Welcome to the channel. And speaking of new people joining the channel, I know that we are super duper close to 7,000 followers. Like, we must be within 60, I think. So if you haven't followed yet, be sure to hit that follow button so that you have a chance of being the 7,000th. Which probably will happen in the next week. Fingers crossed. F.A. Sinsk. Thank you very much for the follow. I'm trying to work out how on earth you pronounce that. F.A. Sink SP? I'm not sure. It's always a challenge when some usernames are just like, I have no idea how to pronounce this. And some usernames apparently get a pronunciation when I start actually saying them, like Poet, which is P08. No, P080. No, P08 something something something. CRG. I started calling him Poet. So things are definitely not looking very good for Ethiopia. Meanwhile, Vijay is going after Bengal, trying to seize some of those juicy coastal territories before they get completely divided amongst them. Spain is going after Murcia, which is in Mexico, expanding the Vikings Beach House, which I very heartily approve of. The Vikings Beach House needs to be expanded. Legit player in Congo, still going after those guys, and the Ottomans and Kilwa have now peaced out. So if we go to the diplomatic map mode, switch over to Ethiopia, we can see precisely what they lost. One province? Oh, no. Oman gained a bunch. Oman was the real victor from this. Was this a war that Oman declared? I think they were just an ally, weren't they? But Ethiopia still has a couple of ports. They can continue their exodus to Indonesia, though there's going to be a lot of competition over Indonesia as well. It was the Omani conquest. Interesting. For the record, I swore I set my AI. This is a new... Oh, this is the original save for Onyx, so... Phoenix. Hey, Charles. I don't think it will show... No, because as soon as I press escape, it cancels Observer. I can't load up my menu and check what Oman has. Faye Onyx. Onyx Faye. Nice corruption in Oman. 12%. Oh dear. Wonder why they've done that. I'm guessing that wasn't you. Spending a fair on rooting out corruption. Don't have any loans, so maybe raised corruption to pay off loans? Possibly tech imbalance? Yeah, I think it's a tech imbalance. Overextended, unbalanced research, and also religious unity. QQ is requesting they come to the aid against Luristan. This seems to be more AI player nations going after other nations. So something weird definitely seems to have happened with AI settings. Maybe because this was loaded by Val? It was over 40 when you took over. Oh, interesting. So that 12 is not from this session. Okay. Well, kudos for reducing it that much. So who's QQ gone after? Luristan, pulling in Genoa and Oman into this war. Luristan, I'm guessing, is just these little yellow bits. Yes, they are. Just double checking that QQ is not in fact here today. Nope. I don't think Arachnos was one of the people who told me that he wasn't going to be here. Hey, Marshall. AI is a big problem going into loans and getting a lot of corruption. Yeah, the corruption issue seems more extreme recently than I've seen it previously. I mean, AI has always gone into loans because they really like mercenaries. Probably way more than they should. Vijay still going after Bengal, still going after Musia, still going after Wasangli and Marahan, which are these guys up here. So Kilwa trying to secure a little bit more of Aden. Congo. Oh dear. Seems to be not doing so well. Congo after Kazembe. I'm guessing that's just a war goal problem. Yeah. It's because he doesn't have the war goal, which is take Tabwa. So he needs to occupy that, which he can't get to because of this fort. Player war, player war, player war, player war. I noticed that as soon as it started. So we have got the Prussian conquest of Ostfriesland, Prussia, Austria, Mughals, Russia, Sweden versus the Netherlands, France, and Florence. This is one major European conflict at the moment. So we've got Prussia, Sweden, Russia, Mughals against France, Florence. Britain sitting out, Spain sitting out. This would definitely not be in Britain's interest to allow Prussia. Well, would it? Because the Netherlands is now a hostile trading power in the English Channel trade node. The Dutch Channel trade node. So this is going to be the first showdown, I believe, between the Prussian Space Marines and the French. And France is, in fact, at war with Austria, so that happened inevitably. And all of it over Ostfriesland. Was Prussia sold Stad so that they could do this? No, I think Prussia always owned that. So here come the Florentine troops. Florence is probably going to be the money bags for this war. I'm very curious about whether Florence is loaning money out here. Diplomatic expenses, subsidies to Tunis and to Pisa. Not really. This is actually fighting against Trier. I had not noticed that Trier was on the Dutch side. Trier is indeed on the Dutch side. Cologne, however, is not. So the alliance between the three Germanic miners has not really resurrected. In fact, Cologne's been neutral more and more frequently. These two have been allied a little more successfully. France going in for a major attack against the 31,000 Prussians here. We do have Swedes adjacent. If we go over to this, we can see Prussia with 5.5 morale against France's 6.4. Discipline's about the same at 121 versus 120%, although Prussia does have their crazy 50% infantry combat ability against France's mere 10. But France has a much better backline thanks to their massed artillery, and I think actually in this fight it's going to be the artillery that wins it, because they will simply be doing that much more damage. Why am I not seeing the casualties? Yeah, the Prussians are now being sent packing. France has got even more troops coming in. And the first battle goes to the French. Let's switch over to France's perspective and hopefully we can see numbers next time. Arachnos told me he had military stuff this week, that's why he isn't here. Okay, fair enough. So immediately Trier goes in the offensive, trying to secure some of the Prussian territories. The nearest Prussian fort is here in Anhalt. Prussia hasn't been that good at building fortifications. All of them... No, not all of them. Okay, it's only actually this one that's level 2. The others are all level 4, so he has been upgrading them. As for Trier, level 4, level 2, level 2. So Trier is the one that we should be moaning at, saying, you've got level 2 forts, they're so obsolete right now. And the Netherlands, I'm guessing, no, also level 2s. If there's one country in the world that wants to make sure they have level 4s and just basically fortress up, it's the Netherlands. They have the money to do it. The other one that I was curious about was Sweden. What is the quality of Sweden's military at the moment? So Sweden has got exploration, expansion, naval and quantity ideas. Absolutely no military there whatsoever. They do have the mercenary maintenance, infantry combat plus 20 as a starting power, and then extra discipline, cav cost. So Sweden's army is definitely not going to be the mini Space Marines, the Ultramarines. The Space Marines truly are Prussia. Then the other question is, Prussia, have you militarized at all? Prussia has militarized a little bit, and I suspect he's just done that looking at the level of his military power currently. And the objective here is Ostfriesland, so they have to take that. What Holland may want to do is dev this up to level 10 and then start sneakily building a fort here. Like, it's a border province anyway, you kind of want to have it fortified, and that's just going to make it that much more difficult for these guys to just snipe that, so they can rely on having 25% extra war score.
Hello.
Hello.
I was told to come see because I have the event bug. When we were in the lobby, someone clicked on my nation, and I think that's caused me to have the event bug.
That's the one where it just sits in front of your screen.
Well, yeah, because I want to disinherit my ruler.
Right.
But I can't because there's pending events.
Well, Helson said that his went away after about 3 months.
3 months?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
But now we know, so we need to tell people not to click around if that is in fact the cause. Okay, good to know.
Yeah, I might have to rejoin now. So
rejoining didn't fix it, so don't. Just wait. Nope.
Great. Okay. I want to disinherit because my heir is strict, and I'm going off to fight a war. So.
Gotcha. Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah.
I mean, you could join the war, do some magical, financy stuff to assist the war, and then join properly.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah. When I have an income of almost 300, of course I'm going to do that.
Exactly. Anyway, sorry, I need to talk about this because there's a battle going on right now. So, battle again. We have got 160,000 Prussians and co. versus the 128,000 French. The French still have a 6.5 morale lead. We have another 40,000 Frenchmen on the way in. Are the Prussian numbers just going to pull this? The Prussians are actually taking huge casualties compared to the French, and I think, again, it's because of the back lines. The French artillery line is just that much stronger, and you can kind of see the difference. I'm a little bit surprised that they're taking this many casualties, but that might be because the number of Prussians actually in that battle are relatively few compared to their allies, because the Prussian units have that combat ability. Their allies don't. And then also just that magnificent French morale, just allowing them to outlast their opponent. Meanwhile, we have got the Florentine units coming through and taking out Austria while they're doing this. And I am sure that the Ottomans are watching this with a lot of interest, because any damage done within Europe is frankly in the Ottoman interest. And I'm still stunned that the Europeans have done nothing to deny the Ottomans, particularly Vienna, seeing as it's one of their goals. Now, people are always saying, oh, we're so worried about the Ottomans, we're so worried about the Ottomans, and they haven't done a thing against them. And I kind of expected this session would be different. I was expecting this to be the Prussians taking the grand stand against the Ottoman threat, but that has not occurred.